Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Will Work for Patients, a free advice podcast dedicated to help chiropractors get on purpose and grow their practices. Get ready to tune in and turn up the volume of your practice marketing. And now, turning up the volume on his mic, big-time chiropractic advocate and your host, here is Frank Sardella.
Greetings again from downtown Clearwater in beautiful sunny Florida. Episode 13, lucky 13 people, let's do this. Well, thank you, Michelle, for that remarkable introduction. Many, many thanks to you. I always love having you introduce me. I'm Frank Sardella, and I'm so happy to be here with you again today in our podcast show. This show is free for you to not only give you marketing help in your practice, but to keep you on purpose, to keep you pumped up, and to keep you going. And that's my commitment in a grassroots effort to make a chiropractic world. So welcome. Hello, regulars, semi-regulars, especially you newcomers. We both know who you are. We've been talking back and forth. So happy to hear from you and so happy you could join us today. Tell me, are you guys still buzzing? I'm just going to skip right over episode 12. That was a solo one I did. Are you still buzzing from episode 11? I mean, Kathy Mills-Chang was just epic, wasn't she? Just outstanding. I'm just still buzzing. Kathy, if you're out there listening, thanks so much again for being on the show. You're always a showstopper. We can't wait to have you back. Listen, I'm not going to say anything about social media right now. I know I always say that here because we have another guest of guests today, and we're going to do something a little different with it. So, and trust me, this guy is worth skipping all of the pleasantries on social media. Okay, so I'm going to reduce it down to simply this. Instagram.com/willworkforpatients. See what the buzz is about, and copy everything that you see there in the pictures. Get your cardboard signs, take your snapshots, send them to me, frank.screenings@live.com. Waiting to see them. We really want to build the Instagram campaign. Okay? So, would you believe we have quite an episode planned for you today? Yes, sir, we do. We have quite an episode indeed, you know. Okay. So today, we're going to do something a little bit different, but I promise you a couple things. Okay? First and foremost, you're going to walk away with some practice marketing ideas for sure. Make no mistake about that, because I always make sure that we tie everything in. But I also assure you that in the wake of an episode called No Passion, No Patience, that you will have something here that will not only pump up your passion a bit, but it's also going to get you and your patients a little bit fired up, okay? A little bit hot under the collar, so to speak, eh? Remember, Doctor the Movie, do you remember that? Our guest, Dr. Frank Margella, Nashville, Tennessee, what he did. And remember the movie and how did it get you fired up? Well, we're going to get you a little bit fired up too. And I guarantee you're going to get a little hot under the collar when you hear some of the stuff we're going to go over today. Our guest is fascinating. Today's episode is entitled Genetically Modified Practices. Okay? And this episode it's not quite about what you're thinking. I know what you're probably thinking. You're thinking, oh, well, here's just another episode, you know, or another thing on GMOs, and I think I'll just look for another episode to listen to. So hold the phone, okay? Just stay tuned because we got something really, really special here. So today, I'm going to talk to you about, because we always want to look in how you can tie these things in with your patients' existing and patients' potential and future, right? And I want to talk about solving community problems. Okay, yesterday we talked about passion, and we talked about your passion in everything you do and how that's some of the greatest public relations you can do for your office. And we're talking about reaching out into your community and helping. And now I'm going to tell you another way where you can reach out and solve the problems that patients and people in your community don't even know they have. And you can swoop in and be the superhero, and you can connect them up to your practice even if they don't become a patient, so that you can work on them over time. And we're going to show you something that's going to do that. We are going to today, actually, our guest is going to cover, first of all, we have a spectacularly special guest, okay? And he's going to actually detail this for you. He and I are going to detail for you, mostly him, the history of food and agriculture and water and everything on this planet, and then engineering and inventing, and this guy is quite an innovator. You're going to love it. Engineering that he's done specifically on these problems. He's going to talk about things like probiotics and balance hormones and different things, and he's going to talk about some breakthrough products that he engineered. I'm not talking multi-level marketing, guys. I'm talking like real deal stuff. This guy is a serious guy. I've been out to his place. He's got a veritable farm in his backyard. Okay, banana plants or trees as high as you can see, and I'm just astounded at what this man is capable of. So I can't wait to share him with you. And I'm going to promise you that I am going to make him sort of mold this into how chiropractors can use it. We're not going to let him go until he does that, okay? All of that, and we're going to squeeze in a top 10 list too. It's going to be extra special for you, okay? We got a special one planned again by our special guest, so you're going to love that. Okay, now who is this mystery guest? Who is that masked man? This guy is fascinating, okay? He's an inventor. He's a researcher in the fields of agriculture, water, microorganisms, nutrition. I keep hearing him use the word nanotechnology, which is fascinating. I still don't have a full grasp of it, so I'm going to be interested to make him talk about that too. This man hails from Clearwater, Florida right now, which is where I know him from. But he's originally born in New York, but he's lived in Japan and Hong Kong and Taiwan. This man is quite the world traveler. 25 plus years at least in the things we're going to talk about today. This man discovered technology to neutralize corrosive aspects of seawater. This is the craziness of this stuff this guy has done, okay? Just the sheer amazing stuff. Neutralization of probiotics to make better soil, clean up rivers, oceans, okay? We're talking a serious environmental guy. We're not talking about a developer of some potion, okay? Improved digestion for humans, animals, plants. He's an expert on something called nanotechnology, as I said. He works tirelessly and endlessly on projects of this nature, and again, one of the most fascinating people that I know. So let me not continue to gush. You guys know I always gush over my guests. Let me let the man speak for himself. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Mr. Winston Gao. Winston, thanks for coming today, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Frank. This is a great opportunity, and I'm very eager to share some of the knowledge of what they have done to our foods.
Well, that's great. I can't wait for you to get into it. I cannot wait. I got to tell you, Winston, for my listeners to get a load of it with you. I think you and I met at sort of a business type of networking group or something meeting one day, and you got up and you started talking about, I think it was nanotechnology that day, and ever since then I've been obsessed with the things that you're working on. So I can't wait for you to share some of these things with my guests. So again, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So, before we get into the episode, though, Winston, I sort of tried to do my summary of your career, and honestly, I looked over your bio and from the stuff you've told me, and I really had a hard time trying to summarize it in one paragraph. So maybe you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe what you'd like the listeners to know about you, or whatever, or what you think is more important, and kind of go from there.
Well, I think one of my most greatest achievement is that we basically have about the 22nd century's agriculture technology here in today.
Uh-huh.
It actually corrects and addresses all the big issues, everything from naturally occurring soil depletions to man-created soil depletions to man's created soil toxicity.
Yeah.
We actually have it covered.
Wow.
We actually have the technology to revert all of these extremely crazy things. And unfortunately, a lot of these crazy things are man-created.
So, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head right there. So if we can talk about even a fraction of that today, we'd be over the top. So, but yeah, man-made indeed, huh? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just a point before we just jump in here, that makes me think of is when you say man-made, a lot of this man-made damage and things you're going to talk about today, it hasn't been that many years that it took man to do that, has it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's actually just the recent 100 years
Wow.
that man has gotten crazy.
Wow.
About what they do to the food. I jokingly said one day to my next door neighbor, who happens to be a mortician, I says, the way Americans eat, you are going to get a pre-preserved person before you get to lay your hands on.
Yeah, no embalming fluid required. Are you kidding?
And he tracked me down 10 years ago. And I says, "Aha, you found one." He says, "Yes."
Wow, that's crazy.
Preserved.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Locked in freshness, isn't it? So, okay, we have an awesome list today, and Winston, this is great. I'm so happy you were able to participate and help us with this top 10 list today. I love it when the guests come up with a top 10 list, but Winston is such a special guest today. He decided he wanted to one-up even Kathy Mills-Chang, and he came up with a top 11 list today. These are the top 11 things that are done to your food before it even hits the table. Heck, before it even hits your shopping cart. Is that true? Winston? Have I someday?
True,
Okay.
yes.
Before it even hits your shopping cart, okay? These are the gross things that people don't even realize. And docs out there, maybe a lot of this stuff you don't even know. So let's get into it, okay? So, number 11, picking the fruit green. Is that sort of how I would sum that one up?
That's correct.
Yeah, explain the significance of that.
Well, basically, most fruit, the tree itself does not put the nutrition into the fruit until 10 days before it's fully mature.
Wow.
So they pick most of the time tomatoes 30 days plus, apples 30 days plus before they're mature. Bananas, Lord knows, even way more than that. And
wow.
So these things, that's one of the reasons why they taste flat and unflavorful, and why the Europeans come here and go, hey, what did you do to your tomatoes? It tastes like cardboard. Actually, the cardboard tastes better. That's because it's immature fruit. Okay, so that's number one. And so this is why somebody wrote a book, Empty Harvest. It's picking the fruits too early.
Yeah, there you have it. So picking the fruit green is the cardinal sin. And guess what, guys? We're only at number 11. And you can see how much passion with which Winston answered that question. Okay, number 10, spraying the fruits and vegetables down with pesticide while it's growing. Winston, I don't know even if we have to elaborate on this one. I think we're probably all pretty well. We do. Okay, well, go ahead. Let's elaborate.
And the reason why we have to do is that everybody thinks you can wash the pesticide off.
Not
true.
Okay.
Because we haven't used pesticides that are external for over 25 years. Most of the pesticides are intrinsic. In other words, the bug has to eat the vegetable or fruit in order to get killed. But don't worry, it's okay for you.
No kidding. So basically, on the good side of that, I don't have to feel guilty because I'm very guilty of not washing vegetables before I eat them. But on the bad side, I'm basically screwed anyway because of the content of the pesticides.
And as long as you eat the certified organic or, clean fruits, you avoid the problems.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, only half joking on that, but wow, how enlightening. Okay, number 9, spray the fruits and vegetables down with fungicides after they are picked. So I didn't even realize there was something separate for fungus.
Yes. Well, fungicides is, fungus is one of the primary reasons that we rot. Okay? When you make compost, the first thing that comes in is the fungus, right? The black mold. So they're the primary cause for decay, and is the primary cause of loss of income for the sellers.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly. We'd probably be better off eating the black mold, than the fungicide?
I don't think so.
Not literally, yes, I know. Let's make a disclaimer here. I'm not telling you to go out and eat black mold. So, okay, let's move on. Number 8. Okay, number 8, spray down potatoes with anti-sprouting agents to extend shelf life. So this means, the little science experiment roots that grow out of the potato, like when you did the little thing when you're in 5th grade and you put the toothpick. So it makes it so that it won't happen, but that's a natural process that's supposed to happen, correct?
That is correct.
So they're suppressing.
By canceling it out, you have much longer shelf life. But hey, what do you think anti-sprouting chemicals will do to your digestion?
Oh, man, wow.
That would be a whole episode all by itself.
I bet, yeah. So I'll tell you what, let's save that one because I want to have you back lots for this. But okay. All right, so number 7, coating the fruits and vegetables down with waxes. Now, this one I sort of know about, but every one of these that I already knew about, you always tell me something about it that blows my mind, and I'm just wondering, is there anything more to it than they're putting like waxes on the apples and the fruits to make them look better in the store and stuff like that, or?
That is only the tip of the iceberg. Nowadays, we are entering nanotechnology. Now, let me explain the word nanotechnology. Mm-hmm. Nanotechnology, basically, you take a molecule, let's grab calcium, and they will make it at least 10,000 times, 100,000 times, 1 million times smaller. Well, each time you make a nanoparticle, they display totally different physical properties. In other words, melting points, the surface tension, every single property of an element is basically changed and altered.
No kidding.
And since they are so much smaller, they go through the blood-brain barriers, they go through all the osmotic issues, right? So how does a body reject or absorb.
No, there's no.
Whether you're talking about digestion or getting rid of toxic waste, right? This is all part of very important. Osmosis is part of the process.
No defense, huh? You just can't defend it. It just goes right through everything.
You have no handle. It just goes in whenever it wants to, and not controlled by the body.
No kidding.
And so you can potentially eat some of this nanotechnology wax. Now, here is my beef on all nanotechnology, whether we're talking about cosmetics, your car wax, or some food products that they can make out of nanotechnology. This is the issue. And I was talking to a nanotechnology scientist that was peddling 50 different products that he was making. And I said, so here we have this nanotechnology. He says, it's just like the real thing. I says, yeah, except it has all different properties. He goes, yeah. And he says, but when you digest it, it all goes back to the same old stuff. I says, really? So you're telling me these, the soil-based microorganisms in my gut is going to eat this nanotechnology and still produce known compounds, or are they going to produce what we call funny proteins, funny enzymes, and funny sugars, things that you and I have never seen before? Mm-hmm. And the answer, truthfully, is you don't know what the end outcome is going to be, and you're the designer of this product, and I don't know, and so does everybody else. Okay. There's my beef.
Yeah, what a beef it is, too. I mean, and a very valid beef, indeed. And actually, that leads us into the next one, because I noticed in number 6, introduced nanotechnology again, toxic petrochemical fertilizers.
Right, so now they're using fertilizers, which are now nanotized. Wow. And now we're going to grow all foods with this nanotized fertilizers. What's the outcome?
Unreal.
Well,
Unreal.
I don't know.
Astounding. Unreal. This list is a bit upsetting, so I hope you guys are getting hot under the collar out there too, because I am a little bit. Let's move on to number 5 then, while I'm nice and hot under the collar here. Carbon monoxide. Now, is this true in meats to keep it that bright red color that we all think is like a very healthy?
Especially with tuna fish and steaks and pork and chicken.
Wow.
This is a way to make things look good and.
My goodness.
I don't know how healthy it is, but it's a very, very, very standard process. I mean, just going to carbon monoxide and meats and you get all the data.
Yeah, I just can't. I'm almost getting sick to my stomach here, so I hope I can make it through the rest of the list, Winston. Number 4 is going to be my favorite. Guys, I'm going to announce a new segment on the show. I think we're going to come up with something called the word of the day, because this would be the word of the day if we had such a segment. Meat glue. Tell me what that is, Winston. Please clear it up for us.
Basically, it's a very, very simple thing. It's a special type of enzyme, and they can take, chunks of meat and fat, slap them together with the glue, and it looks like a beautiful T-bone steak or whatever meat they want to make it to look like.
Oh, my goodness.
And
sort of like
it's glued together. It actually really is glued together. Wow. And just type in meat glue. And look at the enzymes.
Oh my goodness!
And look at what it actually does and why there's so much beef about it. There's a lot of things to know about meat glue that is mostly unpronounceable.
I understand. I don't even want to try, but I like the term meat glue. I think it's a great name for a band. I'm a musician, so maybe I'll call my next band Meat Glue. But that's also our word of the day. If I ever have such a segment, this will be the first one. You heard it here first. Number 3, food irradiation. I am starting to get really a little bit worried about dinner tonight, because I'm starting to feel a little more cautious about what I'm putting in my body. What about food irradiation do we need to know here?
Now, first things is that the food industry never uses the word food irradiation. That is a taboo. They never will use that term because everybody knows how bad it is. You do not shine radioactive materials on your food and then call it good, clean food. Back in the 50s, we used to duck under the tables and throw away the food because it's been radiated, right?
No kidding. So, wow, and now they want us to eat it.
Cobalt-60 it, or cesium-127 it, or iodine-131 it. It's called cold sterilization.
But basically
it destroys all the vitamins, proteins, and nutrients. And people says, well, it doesn't totally destroy it. No. The more proper word is not destroy, but alter.
So similar to basically going fishing by the nuclear reactor and eating the fish, basically, is
Basically,
the
that is the
the
same thing.
animated series. The Simpsons, yeah, Homer Simpson works in the nuclear power plant. They have all the three-eyed fish that live near there and stuff. Food irradiation. Anyway, okay, number 2. We're getting to the bottom of the list because we still have the whole show to get into here. Number 2, genetically engineered foods. Here's the big buzzword. We've all heard it going on. Winston, try to give us 1 or 2 lines on this because I know we're going to take it up soon here too.
Right. So basically, I have never seen a good definition for genetic engineering, not without putting me to sleep or anybody else put to sleep.
Yeah, neither have I was going to say, for that matter. Go ahead.
So I wrote this definition. So here it is.
Good. Yeah, let's have it.
Disregarding the basic laws of nature, scientists crossbreed plants to animals, fungus, parasites, viruses, antibiotics, petrochemical fertilizer, fungicides, and herbicides, creating results that can no longer be recognized by Mother Nature as plant or animal.
Goodness.
Now you understand that Frankenfood, GE food, GMOs, or genetically modified organisms are a organism. So even if you're referring to a single wheat strand, it is a wheat organisms, plural.
Wow. Unbelievable.
So here is where the funny proteins, funny enzymes, all of us have gone to school, studied the carbon chains. They're usually about, 10, 12 carbon chains for proteins and sugars and stuff like that,
Forget about it.
When you start looking at the genetically modified proteins, they call them funny proteins, funny sugars, because they are long as in... It makes a 1 mile long freight train look like a short little amoeba.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, wholeheartedly.
I mean, it's insanely long.
An ironic choice of words to say funny because there's nothing funny about this. I got to tell you, this is just not, no nonsense. Okay, thank you for that definition. This is recorded for posterity, so folks, you can play this over and over and write down that definition. You should put it up on a poster in your waiting room. We're going to get to the number 1 reason here, and it's sort of a little bit of a spoiler because we alluded to this earlier, but I'm just going to emphasize it just to put period to this subject or just end it with an exclamation point. The number 1 gross thing they do for food or creepy thing they do for food, I keep changing the name of the list, Winston, because it just, as we go down it, I just keep thinking of more and more expletives and adjectives or whatever to say. But the number 1 creepy thing done to the food before it even hits your table or your shopping cart, nanotechnology. And I think that's an appropriate one to end on, don't you? Because we're sort of going to get into a little bit of that. And I think that is, nanotechnology is probably one of the biggest things that you see in your line of work that makes you motivated to continue to do your line of work. Because that seems to be the opposite vector to what you're doing, yes?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so well then let's get into it because I had promised them we're going to talk about solving problems that patients and members of these chiropractors communities around their practices, like problems that these people don't even know they have, probably that some of the chiropractors don't even know they have, and how they can sort of swoop in and be a superhero. I know you've developed some products, but I want to sort of get into the background of that. And I think it all started with the history of food. I know we mentioned there was, you said there was only a 100-year history, which is astounding to me that in only 100 years we could just wreck the soil and the environment and the water and all that kind of stuff. So can you just give us a brief history of like where this all started to change and like sort of like what sort of set us up for you to even be interested in this line of research?
Sure. Basically, you have an ice age, which is 90,000 years. Okay. And then we have an interglacial time, which is 10,000 years.
Okay.
And we're at the end of the 10,000 years. So that's not really man-created per se. Like this is the natural occurrence.
Okay.
So that's why that was the end of the 10,000 years, roughly speaking, was probably at the end of 1930.
Okay.
So that's when FDA said, the nutritional level of fruits and vegetables had gone so far south that we're not going to report it anymore. That's 1930.
Wow.
Okay, so since then we come around with petrochemicals, Second World War. We just made the bad situation worse. It has a interesting look when you look at it, how tough humans actually are. If you consider that nutrition was not worth reporting by 1930. Almost everybody who's listening on the show is younger.
Yeah.
Being born in 1930.
Oh my goodness.
So that's just gives you a gist of step A, that the minerals, right? This is what ice ages do. The ice age grinds for 90,000 years and leaves behind itself 10 to 12 feet of fine rock dust, right? And that is the nutrients, the base foundation for the plants to grow with. And this is why my first invention is like, well, let's go back and recollect the minerals that we lost, right? It got washed down into the ocean. And now it becomes the only source that is a 100% ionic. So all the minerals in the salt water is actually bioavailable.
Wow.
So why don't we use the world's cheapest fertilizer? Well, we don't use it because it's got too much salt and it burns plants. And this is where my first invention was to take a water conditioner and run the salt water through it, and I can use diluted versions of salt water. So normally a plant would basically get killed with 900 parts per million of salt in the solution. It starts getting stressed out, and by about 1,200 it starts to kill them.
Sure.
I'm using between 3,000 and 4,000 parts per million of salt water on a day-to-day basis on, relatively salt-tolerant plants. And for super salt-tolerant plants like celery and bananas and potatoes, well, I can get away with occasional sprays as high as 8,000 parts per million. That's really high. Most anybody who does not use my water conditioners, well, don't do this trick because it will turn brown and roll up and die.
Yeah, sure.
But the end product, the reason why I am doing that is that, oh my goodness, you want to talk about some seriously high density, delicious, and aroma just out of the world, tasty, good fruits and vegetables. Wow, salt water is the way to do it. Because remember, I'm dealing with 93 elements, not the normal petrochemical NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, to be your basic ingredient. No, we're using 93 elements, not 3.
No kidding, yeah.
So this is why it is so important of what I have brought forth as far as the design and the invention of utilization of salt water that can be cheaply done.
Now, historically, and then the engineering you've done, I mean, does that sort of summate sort of what the problem was and sort of where you went on the engineering, or are there more things that you sort of put together here?
Oh, there's actually a lot more things not appropriate for this radio show.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least for the length of this program, Winston, I'm sure you and I could go on and on for hours here. But the only reason I asked is because I'm very anxious to get into them. I'm very interested in this subject. You were talking a lot to me about balancing hormones and actually probiotics. I was very interested in a few things you said about that. I'm wondering if you can comment a little bit on that subject to kind of steer us towards some of these other products.
Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to go back to is when you start using petrochemical fungicides, pesticides, fertilizers, you're going to kill the soil-based microorganisms. And then, of course, because they have the pesticides and herbicides, they have taught everybody to wash your fruits and vegetables thoroughly.
Right.
Well, there is something very wrong about that. You see, you should not be getting your probiotics from Winston. No, you're supposed to get it from your fruits and vegetables. Any one of you who have gone out there and picked an apple or a cucumber, you may have noticed there's a white powdery dew on the surface, especially if you grew it organically. You'll see a white powdery dew on it.
Yeah, I've seen it, absolutely.
So that is actually yeast and fungus. So while it's on the plant, it acts as the immune system for the plant. Once the higher order animals, like a deer or a human, comes by and eats it, that happens to be the probiotics that now helps us to digest the food. And then that becomes our immune system. Same bugs, different application depending on what they're doing.
So sort of, let me see if I have this straight. So like washing a piece of fruit or whatever would be tantamount to like dumping bleach down into a septic tank or something.
Yes.
So in other words, you're killing the good bacteria, and then you can't can't digest it. And
digest your food, and then you go eat some beans, and you have a little gas issue.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Or you eat your genetically modified food, and you have plenty gas issue.
No kidding.
So,
I see.
And then, of course, this all makes money for someone who makes money on handling those issues.
Exactly. So the probiotic products that you have are they sort of a replacement for what's being washed away, or?
Correct. That's exactly correct. So since it's no longer truthfully available to the average person in America to get, well, you have me. So I have two products. One is called Inner Garden versus the Outside Garden. So it's called Inner Garden, and that's just plain simple probiotics. And we started with a very sweet solution with molasses and whatnot, and we fermented for several months. And then you end up with this relatively sour solution. And just like apple cider vinegar, it tends to, when you consume it, it then makes you more alkaline. This thing will do the same thing, and it'll also help you digest your food properly. And you will find out, unlike probiotics that you normally buy in the store, which basically is one family, which is the Lactobacillus family.
Oh, yeah.
With a few different species, you're just dealing with one family. But let's face it, everyone that's listening to this show right now doesn't eat just cheese and meat. We eat a variety of things.
Of course.
So how do you digest all the other things? Well, you need other creatures.
Oh, boy.
And then once they digest the first initial, when they secrete their waste, a different creature comes by and breaks that down, and several 490 some processes later, we now absorb that as our food. And so we think we can come around and just take an enzyme or a probiotic that's only lactobacillus and do the digestion. Well, simply it's not going to happen.
It's just not going to happen, yeah. You know what, Winston? You're going to have to hang around after the show today, because I am just swimming thinking, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? I'm going to need your advice. So I'll need you to hang around afterward to instruct me. I'm just swimming in this information. I don't know about you listeners out there, but I am just like blown away by a lot of this stuff. So, well, that makes a lot of sense. So that is the Inner Garden product. Then
the other thing, which particularly pertains to the chiropractors.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Because they're eating so much bad food, they're dealing with patients that's got more lactic acid in their muscles than they can shake a stick. They do an adjustment, and some of these guys don't even get to walk out their front door, and they lost their adjustment, right? Because they're so acidic, they're so stiff, they're so unhealthy. Your good works are being wasted on them.
I see.
So here's a little tool for you, so that you will look like God, because you can finally keep your adjustments in for at least a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
Right?
So
and what I've done is I took one of the world's highest antioxidants that also happens to be relatively cheap. It's called turmeric. See, like take, for example, everybody's heard all these multi-level with the acai berry with 15,000 auric value. Well, turmeric has 159,000 auric value.
No kidding, and you don't have to get turmeric from the ancient hills of Bolivia or whatever they usually say about these juices and potions and stuff. Always cracks me up. So turmeric is a common known word, right? I've heard of turmeric before. You're telling me eating turmeric is like a...
It's a primary reason why the Indians and the Pakistanis have the world record of the lowest cancer rate, because they boil curry 24/7. They never wash their pots. They just throw more curry, more potatoes, more this and that, and they just continue to boil it. So they can get the essence out of the turmeric. But the rest of us, well, we throw turmeric powder or curry powder into our pots, and then we serve it.
Brilliant.
So we don't actually slow cook it for a long time. Guess what? We are only absorbing 2 to 3% on the upside.
Wow.
So that's why you have Winston to ferment it for a couple months, so that you can actually get at the turmeric's wonderful 159,000 auric value, right?
Brilliant.
So
absolutely brilliant.
Everything that you know about turmeric, which is, they know it's anti-cancer, it's a very heavy-duty liver support, it's one of the world's best anti-inflammation, right? And this is where the chiropractic issues really come in, anti-inflammation. That's what you're dealing all day long is inflammation of the joint, the gut.
Sure.
Something is being inflamed. That's why they're showing up to the doctor, right? This anti-inflammation is incredible. And then a surprising property out of turmeric is that it helps the body to balance its hormones. And this is how the name Rest Easy actually occurred. The name was actually invented by my customers because by consuming the turmeric, they were able to sleep. I actually designed it to build the immune system.
That is awesome.
And it actually saved my life, actually. I had this unfortunate trip into New Orleans where I was spraying all kinds of houses down with the inner garden to do a non-toxic mold remediation.
Okay.
And I ended up getting mold poisoned because I was going into tons of mold toxic places.
Sure.
And I had a very bad cough, which is bacterial, then another very bad sinus infection, and then it mutated into a virus and moved into my ear. And the doctor gave me some antibiotics. Says, I don't think this is going to work for you, but it's a virus now. The next place it's going to move, it's in your brain, Winston, and that's game over. And I go, whoa.
Yeah.
So I go back home, I take the antibiotics, it doesn't work, and I go, oh, wait a minute. I was designing this immune system boosters thing. Well, they're either going to read about or hear about this immune booster system, or they're going to read about my obituary. That's either or.
Yeah, I got it.
Obviously, I'm talking, so it's the other one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're happy. Fortunately for the rest of the human race, we need you here on this planet, Winston. So I'm glad you hung on. And you heard it here first, guys. Turmeric, all right? And, I'm not only thrilled that you're alive, and I'm thrilled about this turmeric and that it's called Rest Easy, by the way, which I'm going to get to in a second because I promised you, Kairos, that I was going to sort of tie this in. But the very best thing that I just took from that is I just decided I'm having Indian food for dinner tonight. So I think we just solved my problem here during the show. I'm no longer swimming, and I'll go in and have some nice curried food. I'm ready to do that. Anyway, I'm only half joking. Well, Winston, first of all, thank you for all that data. It was just like completely like awesome. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just sitting here. I actually had to get up from my chair and sort of pace back and forth, and I'm dancing around a little bit, literally. Because I'm just in love with everything you just said, particularly what you just wrapped up with, and I want to tie it in a little bit. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the sleep thing, first of all, you said the people who use the product or whatever, or your customers or whatever you call them, are sort of the ones who named the product Rest Easy, because here's the interesting thing. I'm going to tell you a couple interesting factors. We did, I think it was episode 9, with Desiree Lotz, CEO of Sunshine Vitamin Products. You know Desiree. Yep. Instant CalMag C, calcium, magnesium, vitamin C as an acid. We did a whole talk on how the CalMag C sort of has like a similar use with chiropractors as well. And what we're looking for, Winston, is more things that a chiropractor can use to connect him to the public, and especially things that the public can only come to him to get. And this is cool because your Rest Easy product isn't something they can just like walk into the supermarket and buy. They're not going to find the stuff that you engineer there, and that they could sort of be an exclusive person for this. So I mean that's neither here nor there. That's a great benefit in and of itself. But on top of that,
my best clients are all chiropractic.
I kind of figured, yes, I know. And that's also, why you got invited on the show today, because you're hot with the chiropractors. So I wanted to say, listen, you got to talk to a lot more chiropractors than just the ones you're talking to. But the thing is that we have, I've been doing this almost 20 years, Winston, and my specialty is screening. So it's going out and talking to the individual public. So I'm very much on the public level, and I sort of have my finger on the pulse of communities and society and whatever in terms of sort of what the things that motivate them are. And 20 years ago it was lower back pain, and then toward the late 90s as computers started appearing on people's desks and whatever at home and at work, that started being neck and shoulder pain. And then in the late 2000s it started moving to fatigue and tiredness and sleep difficulties, okay? And those are actually the number 2, and the number 1 being weight loss, but weight loss also having a lot to do with these chemical things. People don't realize, like weight loss. So you're handling the number 1 and and the number 2 and number 3 with just the 2 things you talked about today. And again, that's what got you invited to the show today. I'll just be quite frank with you, because if it didn't work from our chiros, we'd have no use for you here except to just have a good time, which is always a pleasure. But anyway, so I just want to sort of tie together for the audience that is sort of where we're going with this. This is another tool that they can use to not only connect with the community, but to also create an effect in the community, because it's something that will be effective with them and will make them very interested in the chiropractor. And then, of course, with the patients and the people who do become patients, the whole thing about adjustments holding longer and whatever just makes their PR in the community better. So I am in love with all of that, Winston. That's great. All right, so let me just do a quick recap here, and maybe you can just recap with me. We're going to do some quick one-liners. We're really pressed for time, but again, I always hold the show over a little bit if it's very interesting, and it's just riveting, the stuff that you talk about. But history of food on this planet, the whole thing, Ice Age, the whole 10,000 years ended around 1930. Soil got destroyed. I mean, that's pretty well. I think we're all pretty square on what the history was, but you have now engineered products that will start reversing the effects of that on humans. I mean, is that sort of a good recap of what?
That is a very good recap. That is very true. The whole drive is high-density nutrition, something that America has not seen for close to 100 years.
Yeah, and I think we just uplifted the purpose of today's episode. It's really not about just getting new patients. There's a little bit of a responsibility thing in it. That's great. Thank you for that. And that just give me, as part of the recap, the 2 products were Rest Easy, and the other one was
called Inner Garden.
Inner Garden, right?
Yeah. So the Rest Easy is for sore muscles, hormone balancing, and the Inner Garden is primarily just for digestion.
Inner Garden.
There's about 20 different applications for the Inner Garden.
I'm sure.
And fermenting beans, we can do another show, and I'll talk about seeds, nuts, and grains and how they are not digestible unless you properly ferment them or properly soak them.
Sure. Okay. As far as the Inner Garden is concerned, basically as part of the recap is that what we're doing is we're replacing the probiotic elements that are missing from the food, even from just us washing it, not to mention how fruits grown and all that kind of stuff. We're replacing what should be on it. That we're not getting that actually helps us digest the food. So, folks, also remember and make sure your patients take this away from this kind of thing, that not all the things you need to digest food are inside your gut. They come from the stuff you're putting in there, and we're not getting it from there. Was that a good recap? Yeah, of that?
Excellent.
Okay, fantastic. What a brilliant recap. Winston, again, thank you so much, profusely, for that. I'm just really happy about that, and I think the audience is going to be very happy about what they're taking away. And now I have to sort of tie it all together in the last word. Okay, so who gets the last word? I do. After all, it's my show. So what should we take away from today's podcast? Well, if anything, I sincerely hope that you take to heart one thing, and there's always one thing on every show. And I had a different word planned, but I'm going to change it right now. And that word is responsibility, folks, okay? This is more than just a marketing campaign and a way to stay in touch with people, prospective patients, longer time than just 5 minutes at a screening when you couldn't get them closed. Now you have also something, to get them to come back to your office that they can only buy exclusively from you, that'll get them repeatedly to your office, all well and good. But you know what? There's something a little bit bigger going on here that I don't think any of us can ignore anymore. And I'm not here to lecture to you, but we just came out of an episode on passion, so I want to talk a little bit about your passion and your purpose is to really help people. And let's face it, just an adjustment isn't going to help them anymore when they're destroying themselves. Even the guys who aren't drinking Red Bull, folks, are just eating regular food and think they're eating healthy, and you hear what Winston talks about, some of these disgusting things that are being done to their food. So the word to take away from today's episode, I think, is responsibility, and hooking up with a guy like Winston or whatever it is you do. And you know that we always have all kinds of suggestions and what have you, but let's take that word away with us today and say responsibility to your community. And when you get out in your community and you be responsible and you just reach out and help people and you don't expect anything in return, that and only then is when you get something in return. And that's the last word for today. Hey, Wouldn't it be amazing if we look back on this moment and said, this is where it all changed? Don't you love that we say that every episode now? I just love saying that to you because I would love, please give me that moment with you, okay? I would love to have that moment with you, especially today with Winston Gao, with his innovation and his motivation and talk about passion. I mean, this is a passionate guy right here. He's one of us, okay? So I'm inviting him into our group. But any of the shows that we've done, right down to ambulance chasing, okay? Take your pick. We have quite a collection growing here. Okay, so Winston, one more question for you, Winston, about...
Yes.
I'd like to hook people up with you, and of course we're going to blast you all over our social media. We're going to put links to your website, any interesting articles you have, and I know you have tons of fascinating stuff to read. But what is the main place where we can connect them up to you through?
The best place is go to my main website, which is gobeyondorganic.com.
Okay, good. And
they can always call me at 727-447-2344.
Okay.
That's the main office.
I got it. And so we got gobeyondorganic.com is the main site, and I think that's where they can hook up. You call it turbocharged turmeric, and then Ideal Earth, I think, on the water stuff?
Yeah, Ideal Earth Water. That's correct.
Ideal Earth Water.
Yeah, that's where you can take out the fluoride to non-detectable levels.
Oh, boy.
That's one of my inventions.
How about that? Wow, we could probably do a whole episode on that too, right? Fluoride's a hot topic.
We certainly can.
Talk about getting hot under the collar. I know I'll be hot on fluoride, but don't get me started. Okay, so first of all, I say we have Winston back. I mean, this was just fascinating. Winston, would you like to come back to the show another time?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What do you think we could talk about next time?
Oh, how about the subject of water?
Okay.
You know, I always love people when they say they are pro-distilled water or anti-distilled water. My question always is to them, which one of the 4 distilled waters are you talking about?
What? You got to be kidding me.
No.
You know what? I'm going to put you on. I'm going to tell you to just hold it right there. Don't say anything more. Let's leave the audience in mystery. But I think after we end the episode, I'm going to pick your brain. I think I'm going to have to find out what that's all about. Okay. How about something special we can give them, or do you have any perks or offers that we can plug here?
Yeah, I do have a very special thing. I have my Inner Garden or my Rest Easy. I'm going to have $5 off. They're normally $39.95 for the Inner Garden and $49.95 for the Rest Easy per bottle for 32 ounces. And if they just mention, will work for patients, they'll automatically get the $5 off. Now, we have discount if you buy more bottles as well. And we will throw in some samples as well so that not just you get to try it, but your office assistants can also get some free samples as well.
Right. Well, that's fantastic. I love it. Thank you for that. And I'm glad you threw in the free samples there because that was something that I was just going to say. It wasn't enough. Give us something that has the word free on it because I always like something free, so that's perfect. Okay, well, good. Winston, again, thanks so much.
You're very welcome, Frank.
Good. Our next episode, it's going to be sales, SEO, and internet marketing, and so much more. That's all I'm going to say about it. We went over time a little bit today, but suffice to say, I'm still down here in Clearwater. It's a beautiful day out. I'm still in shorts and a T-shirt, folks, after a long, hard winter, and I've got some blockbuster guests lined up. I'm pretty much doing a guest a day for the next few days, so look forward to a couple of really, really smashing episodes. I will work for patients. Incidentally, so will Winston Gao. So will you? Come on, guys. Let's do this, huh? Winston, again, I can't thank you enough. I know I gushed over you like a ton today. I hope you weren't blushing or red in the face. I tend to do that to people because I get very interested. I'm just interested in people, and you are just fascinating. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, and it was very educational and enlightening. And even if our audience, I think, doesn't do a single thing with any of your products, I think they're just going to walk away way smarter than they were. And people would just be cruel not to pass on that kind of information. So I'm sure something good will come of it. So thanks for helping us with our grassroots effort here. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. It's all my pleasure.
Fantastic. Okay, folks, so the free resources I'm going to plug real quick. YouTube, Free YouTube videos on chiropractic. You can get them. Go to screeningexperts.com. Scroll down to the bottom. Free resources. You'll see there the YouTube site. You can go there. You can embed the YouTube videos on your site. You can share them on social media. Go to willworkforpatients.com for all of our social media. You can link to us there. You can get in our Instagram photo competition. Hopefully we're going to persuade Winston to send us a photo for Instagram as well. We'll tell him all about it, and you'll get to see pictures of him maybe if we can talk him into it. And then also willworkforpatients.com, all the ways to subscribe. We recommend BeyondPod for Android. That's the one I use personally. Also, I do use the podcast app and iPad and iPhone and iTunes. The RSS feed is there so you can find everything. Remember, this is a grassroots effort to make a chiropractic world like we all want. So let's make every episode count, huh? I know I can count on you. So, my friends, we've come to the end of a mind-bending episode of the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. On behalf of myself, the intensely interesting Winston Gao, our announcer Michelle, and the rest of the Screening Experts crew, I thank you so very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon for yet another breakneck episode of Will Work for Patients. So long.
Be sure to subscribe and share. Will Work for Patients has been brought to you courtesy of Screening Experts, bringing unscripted simplicity to chiropractic marketing complexity. Today's episode, copyright Screening Experts LLC, musical score composed and arranged by Frank Sardella ASCAP. For more information, visit screeningexperts.com.